Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Bitter Pill. So, today I wanted to talk about what we know about the attempted assassination of Donald Trump that took place last Saturday, I believe, and what some of the conspiracy theories about it have been and how credible they are, and some that aren't so credible, and just the general reaction and what we do and don't know. So, it was last Saturday early evening. Trump was speaking at a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, at a fairground. And a few minutes into his speech, a fellow named Thomas Crooks, a 20-year-old college student, kind of in between community college and attending a 4-year college, was able to get off 8 shots with an AR-15 style rifle that belonged to his dad. And he took these shots from the roof of a building that was located only a bit over 400 feet, approximately 130, 140 yards from the stage. And so one of those shots wounded Trump in his right ear, and 3 other shots, or three people were wounded, and one was killed by I'm not sure if it was I'm not sure which shots hurt and killed others, but in any case, so he gets off several shots, somehow managing to climb up on the roof of a building with a direct view of the stage where Trump was speaking, only less than 150 yards from the stage, which, from what I understand from practiced marksmen, that's pretty close range. Anyone decently trained in shooting could hit a target the size of somebody's head at that distance, at least, in at least one of 8 shots. And, in fact, one of the shots that he fired was on target enough that it very well could have killed Donald Trump. So what you see there is some close-up footage taken just before the shot hit Trump in the ear, and it's got a bullseye superimposed on it, so you can see where it was lined up, straight, dead on his head, when the shot was fired, versus when he turned his head slightly to look at a graphic on the screen to his right, that made the shot be off target enough that it grazed his ear, put a hole in his upper right ear, rather than splattering his brains all over the place. So it was a very close call. And at that distance, some people have said, well, why did they have the flag right behind him? The motion of the flag could indicate the wind direction, help a would-be assassin adjust his shot, and so forth. It was a close enough distance that that really wasn't a factor. So then that raises a question of how exactly the shooter was able to get so close. So Trump is shot, and he grabs his right ear and immediately ducks for cover behind the podium, shielded by Secret Service personnel. And then roughly a minute later, and for some reason, even though at least some of the Secret Service agents and local police personnel, state and local police personnel who were there to assist the Secret Service agents, and that appears to be common practice with Secret Service protection details, is that they rely on local law enforcement to assist them. But anyway, so some of them were aware of the shooter, and yet somehow he was able to get off 8 shots before the sniper team stationed on roofs of buildings near where Trump was speaking took him out. So here's a graphic of where everybody was. So the shooter was on this building that you see on the left of the screen there. Trump is on the stage speaking to a crowd. So I'm not sure if this is right or not, because the shot hit him in his right ear. And okay, the angle here, it looks like it would come in, like if he's speaking to people in the stands behind him, the shooter would be on his left. And it looks like in this graphic here, the shooter is on the right. So I'm not sure if this is an accurate graphic or not. Anyway. The snipers and this graph. Okay, this graphic is not accurate because there were snipers on 2 different roofs. Let's see if I can find a better one, actually. Okay, well, this one shows the same thing basically, but yeah, maybe it came in from the back, and so that's how it hit Trump's right ear. I'm not sure, but anyway, there were actually 2 teams of snipers. One on the roof of the building, to the left of Trump, and one on the. There's 3 barns, and counter sniper teams were on the leftmost and rightmost ones. So the counter sniper team that were on the roof that you see labeled counter sniper teams here, the label is on top of that building. Their view of the building where the shooter was obstructed by trees. Whereas the view of the ones that were on this building, which is where the shots that took out Thomas Crooks, killed Thomas Crooks within a few seconds. So the shots were on the other building that had an unobstructed view. So yeah, they couldn't get a clear view of the shooter. So that was one thing that went wrong here, one problem. Another thing that went wrong is that they apparently didn't have enough manpower to secure the event properly. So this article in the Washington Post, according to this article in the Washington Post, the Secret Service was told police could not watch the building used by the Trump rally shooter. And there was kind of a diffusion of responsibility here where the Secret Service was saying, well, we left, we delegated responsibility to the local police for some of the security measures. And the police, in turn, said, well, ultimately, the responsibility for protecting Donald Trump lies with the Secret Service. Which it does. But the police alerted the Secret Service, as it says here, before Trump's rally, saying they lacked the resources to station a patrol car outside of the building that later was used by Thomas Crooks to shoot at Trump. And so there's no patrol car there. There were officers stationed inside the building, but there was nobody on the roof. And this was the closest building outside the venue that had the best view of where Trump was speaking. It was a prime location for an assassin, and somehow they managed not to cover it adequately. And I should mention, inside the fairgrounds, there was very tight security. They had the requisite technology to scan everybody and make sure they didn't bring weapons in. And this building was just outside of the fairgrounds. And it was actually, in fact, flagged by a Secret Service beforehand that this was, like the main vulnerability of the site. Okay, let's see what they say here. I haven't played the video here. I just read the text.
Is that the roof where the shooter was located was a well-known, high-priority vulnerability. It was identified just the day before during a security walkthrough. We've also just learned that there were 2 counter-sniper teams on site and that the counter-sniper did not need approval to shoot. One source telling NBC News that prior protocols were not followed. Is that the roof where the shooter was located was a well-known, that prior protocols were not followed.
Okay, so they had permission to shoot at him. So the question is, well, why didn't they shoot right away? That raises another point about the poor security planning for this event. Now, ordinarily, it's a problem in combat or security situations or whatever to quickly be able to distinguish friend from foe. So one thing that might have delayed the sniper team shooting at the sniper was not knowing for sure who he was. Was he one of the security team, either a Secret Service agent or a member of the police, or was he someone who wasn't supposed to be there? Now, if they had just, had personnel stationed on that roof as they should have, then there would have been no problem, right? But they didn't. So they had to, figure out who this was. And they didn't figure out till he actually shot. And then within a few seconds, they shot him and killed him. But, I mean, it's commonplace. Scott Ritter mentioned this on a podcast the other day. I believe it was Scott Ritter, or maybe it was Larry Johnson. I can't remember. But anyway, two people with expertise to comment on such matters. Scott Ritter and Larry Johnson, both being former intelligence agents. But one of them pointed out that in situations like this, where it's important to be able to quickly distinguish between friend and foe, it's common practice to put a colored armband on your arm or something like that. And they didn't do this. So hence there may have been a delay in identifying the target. But there were just so many lapses in security that it's just, that obviously begs the question of whether there was intent behind this, the worst event security you could imagine. There were many eyewitnesses who said that they saw the guy on the roof and alerted police or Secret Service of a suspicious man on the roof with a gun. And they didn't really do anything with that information. What should have happened was, they should have kept Trump from coming on stage in the first place until they figured out who this guy was and killed or arrested him if necessary. And that didn't happen.
Just take me back. What were you doing before the shooting happened? And then what did you see and hear?
I was just standing there like everybody else, waiting for Trump. And as Trump started, I noticed two officers that were looking for something or somebody. I was looking around myself and seeing a guy on top of one of the buildings go in between one building to the next, and went and told the officer that he was up there. And when I went back to my spot, I heard that people could still see the person from where they were standing. So I checked that out, and I went back to tell the officer that if he came over there, he could see them. And when I turned my back is when the shots started. And then it took me a second or two to figure out exactly what it was. And then it was just getting out of there and helping some other person out with her child. And we got out, and that was the end of that. And I went and left, and that was all.
Okay, so that was one of many eyewitnesses who saw Thomas Crooks either climbing up on the roof of the building or actually on the roof, with a gun. Also, allegedly he was, and he came there in his car, in which he had, his rifle and a scope used to, a rangefinder used to estimate the distance to the target, and other equipment, and his bicycle. And so he apparently rode his bicycle around for about 45 minutes, looking for the best place to shoot from. Then he parked the bicycle next to the building that he fired his shots from, climbed up a ladder that happened to be there. Well, he brought a ladder with him. I don't know. It doesn't mention in the summaries I've read whether he actually carried his ladder over there or just used a ladder that happened to be there already. Let me see if I can find that information. Okay, it just says he purchased a ladder. Doesn't say whether he actually carried his ladder over there, which would be even more outrageous. Because I know I've read somewhere that there already happened to be a ladder there, which is itself suspicious. But anyway, so okay, let me see if I can find any mention of the ladder, because that's bugging me. Guess not. So if anybody knows about what exactly he used to climb up there, because I can't, it's inconceivable to me that somebody could walk over to the building carrying a ladder, and I mean, it was suspicious enough that he was walking over there with the case in which his gun was, but yeah, you can't imagine that he was able to get over there with a ladder. Okay, so somehow he gets up on the roof, and he sets up to shoot. And right before he took his shot, a local police officer climbed up the same route he had and came up on the roof. You're right by him. Okay, here we go. Okay, a Butler Township police officer attempted to climb the roof of the building in search of Crooks, hoisted by another officer. Crooks spotted the officer while the officer's hands were clinging to the edge of the roof and aimed his rifle at the officer, at which point the officer let go, falling 8 feet to the ground and severely injuring his ankle. Now, some people have said, oh, man, what a chicken shit. Why didn't he pull out his gun and shoot the bastard? Well, he's got his hands up, clinging on to the roof. He didn't have a free hand to grab his revolver or whatever. So naturally, not wanting to die right then and there, he let go. But at that point, surely, a competent security team would have, immediately gone after the shooter, gotten Trump off the stage, or what have you. But so Crooks pointed the gun at the officer, forcing him to not come up on the roof, and then immediately re-aimed the gun at Donald Trump's head and took his shots. Now, one thing I've learned that I didn't know, because I've shot a gun before, but I'm not by any means an expert on sniping. But it's actually not too easy to set up a shot with a rifle, and especially if you have a scope. And what I've heard is that this rifle had a scope, but it didn't have magnification. But that was perfectly fine to line up a good shot at Trump. But the thing is, scopes on rifles have, particularly if they magnify, but even if not, they have a pretty narrow field of vision. So you have to actually sort of line up with your naked eye where your target is before you then sight it with your scope. And so, yeah, it suggests that he was pretty skilled, that he was able to so quickly line up, target Trump and get off his shots within a few seconds of encountering the police officer. Now, there's some reports which the high school that he had attended did not confirm that he tried out for the school's rifle team. I don't know about you guys, but my high school didn't have a rifle team. But anyway, Thomas Crooks High School did. And allegedly, he tried out for their rifle team and didn't make it because he was a bad shot. So, people were like, this raises suspicions. How was he able to almost kill Trump? But there's no confirmation that this took place. What we do know is that later, after he graduated from high school, he did join a local rifle club and was part of it, for a couple of years. And evidently, if he wasn't already, he got to be a good shot, good enough to hit Trump from his location less than 150 yards away. Let me now get into some of the conspiracy claims or just weird notions about what happened, or allegations that have been made that don't really have any evidence to back them. So a number of people have alleged that this AR-15 rifle that he used, which belonged to his dad, cost $15,000. So they're like, how can a 20-year-old who worked at a low-paying job at a local nursing home afford a $15,000 rifle? Well, in the first place, he didn't buy the gun. His dad did about 10 years prior to that. His dad owned, a number of guns. So, from what I understand, his dad became concerned, prior to this happening, or just prior to it, that, he didn't know where his son was or where this rifle was that he had in his collection. So, he may have had some inkling that Crooks was gonna. I doubt that he thought, "Oh, my son's gonna go try to kill Trump." But he was suspicious and called around to find out what was going on. But okay, so first of all, it was his dad's gun, so the fact that he didn't have a big income is not an issue. And also, it's just not true that AR-15 rifles, even high-end ones, cost $15,000. From searching around, I discovered that they cost somewhere between $500 and $2,000, depending on what exactly you get. Nowhere near $15,000. Okay, so one weird claim that doesn't make sense there. there were a number of Democrats or liberals who just didn't even believe that it was a real assassination attempt. They thought that Trump and his team somehow staged, a fake assassination attempt in order to get Trump favorable publicity. So one of my favorites was this lib named Tim Wise, who's a supposed anti-racism expert. And he's been like a full-fledged Trump derangement syndrome liberal for, ever since Trump ran for president now. So he said immediately after the assassination attempt, and if you saw footage of the shooting, you saw about a minute after the shots were fired, and then the sniper was taken out, Crooks was killed, Trump and the Secret Service agents covering him got up, after receiving word from their team that the sniper had been taken down, and Trump raised his fist in the air, pumped his fist, and said, "Fight, fight, fight." And so the crowd went wild, and somebody got a picture of it, and so there's this iconic image which I put as the thumbnail for this video of Trump with his fist raised in the air. And a lot of people have said, well, that his reaction to almost getting killed is gonna virtually guarantee that he gets elected. And we'll see about that. If Biden were going to stay in the race, I think he'd be pretty guaranteed of winning anyway. But in any case, this will certainly help him. And so based on that, some Democrats or liberals, like this jackass Tim Wise, alleged anti-racism activist, said it was basically it was staged. So Tim Wise says that fist pump shit after Trump was, quote, shot is too perfect. No way someone thinks to do that after an actual assassination attempt. It's what a MAGA script writer would write, though. And this is the same guy who, a few months ago said this. After watching the powerful documentary, The Truth versus Alex Jones, it's clear Jones deserves to be utterly ruined. Take everything, his home, furniture, food, all of it, but not just him. Every sick, deranged voice that collaborated with him to deny Sandy Hook. End them all. And so here he is doing exactly the same thing as Alex Jones, claiming this is all fake. And he later deleted this tweet, after it became obvious that this was a real assassination attempt, Trump was actually injured, and so forth. But the fact that his immediate reaction was to think it was staged is just, it really shows how deranged this guy and many other liberals like him is or was. And I can't help but wondering if he didn't want Trump dead, because a few years ago, Tim Wise, who, like virtually every other Democrat, thinks that Trump and Putin colluded to steal the 2016 election, which there's never been any evidence of whatsoever, and buys into all the propaganda claims about Putin, that he's a dictator who rules Russia with an iron fist, and so on and so forth. And as you know, if you've heard from me before, I certainly have my criticisms of Putin, but it's pretty clear that he's a very popular leader that has been elected repeatedly through pretty free and fair elections. His election results basically match up with poll results, not taken by the Russian government, by independent polling agencies that show he's a popular leader. But anyway, so Tim Wise says, I, for one, think Putin has been working hard and deserves a vacation. Given history, I recommend Mexico City. I hear there's a great house in Coyoacan, a neighborhood in Mexico City where he could stay. And Coyoacan is the neighborhood where Leon Trotsky, one of the leaders of the Russian Revolution, who was ultimately assassinated in 1940 by henchmen hired by Joseph Stalin, the leader of the USSR at that time. He was killed by a guy that stabbed him with an ice pick. And so Putin Wise is saying he wishes Putin would get stabbed with an ice pick and killed. And probably wishes the same about Trump. But this is just crazy. And he wasn't the only one who thought that this assassination attempt was staged. There were many others. But again, how would you stage this? So somehow, the shooter has Trump's head lined up. Thomas Crooks has Trump in his sights. The only reason why Trump wasn't killed is that he turned his head to the right, so it hit his ear instead of his brain. And somehow this was staged. Like Trump knew somehow to turn his head just at the right minute so it would graze his ear and not put a hole in his skull. And it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Joy Reid was a commentator for MSNBC, was another one who thought that there was not a real assassination attempt, or at least implied that. So MSNBC host Joy Reid made dubious claims and proposed conspiracy theories regarding the assassination attempt on former President Trump. Let's see. I think I have a video because I don't think this article. Oh, here we go. Here's what Joy Reid had to say. Okay, we actually do know that he wasn't hit by shards of glass, because obviously it wouldn't just be his ear that was injured if there was a bunch of glass showering at him. There's no indication from footage of the event, which was widely photographed and captured on video We see no evidence in any of the footage or photographs of the assassination attempt of any flying glass or shrapnel or what have you hitting Trump. We do, however, have, and I don't think I saved this, so I'll just tell you about it, an image of a bullet flying past Trump's head. Somebody that was actually able with a high-speed camera to capture the streak of a bullet going by Trump's head that may have been the bullet that hit his ear. And we see a big hole in his ear in footage right afterwards. So Joy Reid is like, well, we don't have full details from his physician about what happened. Okay, I think that's not true. I haven't seen details on where they were, but I'm sure that information exists. Okay, so she's completely misinformed here. They kept Trump down on the ground, behind the podium, for almost a minute, and only stood up with him when they got the all clear. That they got the information that the shooter had been taken out. They still surrounded him, in case there was another shooter. Although there's questions about how well they were protecting him, because one of the agents who was there, a woman, was substantially shorter than Trump. But in any case, my point is, they didn't let him stand up and pump his fist and so forth, until they got information that the shooter had been killed. So obviously that pokes giant holes in this notion that the thing was staged. But in any case, going back to that for a moment, you couldn't stage this. Even a really good shot wouldn't be able to, just graze Trump's ear or just barely miss Trump, or wouldn't be able to guarantee that they would do that rather than hitting him if they were actually aiming close to his head. And again, the shot was lined up until he turned his head. One of the shots would have hit him directly in the head if he hadn't turned his head at the last moment. So it only punched a hole in his upper right ear instead. So Joy Reid doesn't quite go the full route of claiming that it was staged like Tim Wise did, but she comes pretty close. Okay, so you know, I don't know whether they have released Trump's medical records as of yet, but we all saw. I mean, if you've been following this, you saw photographs of the injury to his ear. It's pretty clear that there was substantial damage to the top of his ear that looks like it could have been hole punched in it by a 22 caliber bullet, which is what AR rifles use. We've seen it, but there are lots of people who didn't believe he was really injured. Okay, so there's this claim. Hours before the event, no bandage. This is a photograph of Donald Trump with an intact ear next to J.D. Vance, his vice presidential pick. But this is not true that this photograph was taken hours before the event. It was actually taken in November of 2022. Let's see, I believe I have it somewhere, but okay. I'm not seeing it, but anyway, I looked this photo up and confirmed that it was indeed from November of 2022 when J.D. Vance was running for and ultimately elected to the Senate. I thought I had lots of other example. Well, maybe I just got that one, but there were a number of people who claimed that. Oh, here we go. Okay, this is the one I wanted. Okay, so here's Morgan Freeman, the famous actor and producer who I guess is best known for the role he played in Driving Miss Daisy, where he was the chauffeur and butler and so forth for a rich elderly white woman in the Deep South during Jim Crow. So Morgan Freeman is a famous actor and Trump deranged dumbass, basically. He's just not a bright guy. I'm sorry. So anyway, he says Trump golfing Sunday, no bandage. Trump Monday at RNC, big bandage. Thoughts? Now this picture of Trump playing golf was confirmed by the person who posted it on Instagram to have been from a while back. He didn't play golf on Sunday, the day after the assassination attempt. In fact, the golf course, his golf course, where he was staying at his residence near the golf course in New Jersey, but he didn't go golfing because actually the club was closed on Sunday. So anyway, he was not playing golf on Sunday with no bandage. This is just Trump hating liberals. Nonsense. Oh, here's where I found this photo. November of 2022. At the other end of the political spectrum, you had people like Matt Walsh, the conservative blogger, essentially saying that the reason why Trump came close to getting killed was because there are women in the Secret Service. Now, it is true that the head of the Secret Service is a woman, and she didn't really, somebody obviously failed in their job, and the buck stops with her. But I mean, if you look at photographs of the immediate aftermath of the assassination attempt, when they're getting Trump on the ground, all the people in that picture were men, male Secret Service agents, and then there were a couple of women in the Secret Service detail. And you saw one of them forming the encirclement of Trump after he got up, about a minute after the shooting. And she was substantially shorter than Trump. So you could say, okay, she shouldn't have been there in the detail on stage with Trump, that had the responsibility of guarding him with their bodies if a shooter situation emerged. But I mean, there are lots of roles in the Secret Service that women could perform perfectly adequately. Women can certainly learn to shoot just as well as men, so they could have been, although we're not in this case, among the snipers. The Secret Service actually is as much a agency that investigates financial crimes as it is a agency tasked with protecting the president. And anyway, my point is there are all sorts of roles besides being the immediate bodyguards of public figures that exist in the Secret Service that women could do just as well as men. In any case, it's not because there are also women in the Secret Service, like 10% of people in the Secret Service are women, that there were all these security lapses. That's just absurd. So, the question is, why, if it wasn't because women are in the Secret Service, why were there all these security lapses? And I don't know. It honestly, it seems hard to imagine that this could all have happened. All these different security lapses where they didn't have anybody on the roof of the building that Crooks shot from. They didn't even have, a patrol car with somebody in it stationed beside the building to make sure nobody could climb on the roof. They had all these prior warnings that there was a suspicious person near the event. Like all these spectators told either the local police or the Secret Service, hey, there's this guy prowling around the event that looks like he could have a gun with him, or hey, look, there's a guy on the roof, or ultimately there's a guy on the roof with a gun, do something. And they didn't act in time to prevent shots from being fired. So at the very least, there were like the worst security lapses that we've seen by the Secret Service in at least 40 odd years. The last time an assassination attempt was carried out, against a president or other public figure, where somebody actually got shots off, was in 1981, when John Hinckley was able to shoot President Ronald Reagan. I'm not sure what happened there. In fact, on that occasion, Hinckley was able to get pretty close to Ronald Reagan. It wasn't an assassin, with a high-powered rifle shooting from, a building 100+ yards away, like was the case with the Trump rally. So definitely there were security lapses, severe security lapses then, but there hasn't been anything since then of anything like this magnitude. So we don't really know for sure whether it was just colossal incompetence, like the most colossal incompetence that we've seen from the Secret Service since at least 1981, or there was, there were nefarious elements to this, where, at the very least, they, allowed someone to climb on the roof and, get shots off before taking him out. So, it's entirely possible. And, I'm like the last person to buy into conspiracy theories. I'm not sure what to think about the Kennedy assassination, whether there was, involvement by people who wanted Kennedy dead other than the shooter himself. Is it Lee Harvey Oswald? I can't remember. But there's certainly questions about whether Kennedy's assassination in 1963 was the product of a gunman acting alone, or whether there was a conspiracy to take him out. And there very well could have been a conspiracy to kill Kennedy that maybe involved the U.S. government in some capacity. And similarly, in this situation, we could say, certainly there were people who had motives to take him out, and certainly the rhetoric surrounding Trump has been very toxic for quite a long time. So I think I had something bookmarked about this. God, I just had it and now I can't find it. Oh, here we go. So, okay, I'm not sure why there's two. There's something screwed up about my browser, but anyway, not too long before the shooting, President Joe Biden said something to the effect of, and I unfortunately don't have the exact quote saved. He said something in an interview to the effect of, we need to put Trump in a bullseye. And on other occasions, he said things like, Donald Trump is an existential threat. We have to do everything we can to make sure that he's not elected. So if you hear language like that, that somebody's an existential threat, and there's been all this talk about Trump over the years. He's Hitler, and if somebody's literally a reincarnation of Hitler, in essence, in terms of his politics, I mean, what does that imply that you should do about it? There was a movie back in the early 80s called The Dead Zone about a guy who had something happen to him where he acquired psychic powers, and if he touched somebody, he could predict their future. So he could predict if somebody was going to die somehow in a tragic accident or something like that. And so he shook hands with this politician running for office and foresaw that he was going to become elected president of the United States and was going to start a nuclear war. And so he's talking with his therapist and says to the therapist, what if you found out that in advance, and his therapist knew about his condition. So he's like, what if you found out in advance that, because you're psychic, that Hitler was going to create a Holocaust? What would you do? Would you kill him before he takes power? And his therapist was like, yeah, if I had a chance to kill Hitler in advance of all that he did in Germany, of course I would. And so the guy takes that as confirmation that he should try to kill this politician who's going to get into office and start a nuclear war. And it's a failed assassination attempt, but the guy is exposed and winds up not getting elected president, and the world is saved. So anyway, there's been all this rhetoric from Democrats, from liberals over the years to the effect that Trump is Hitler. He's an existential threat. We've got to take him out somehow. We've got to stop him from ever getting into the White House or getting into the White House again. So we don't really know anything at this point about Thomas Crooks' motives. They managed to, despite claims by some of the conspiracy theorists that the FBI couldn't get into his phone and so forth. He did get into his phone and his computer. He didn't really have much of a social media history or any indication on his phone or computer that he had these views that Donald Trump needed to be killed or something like that. But gosh, I lost my train of thought here. So no indication that he had political leaning. Oh, okay. And interviews with his classmates and other acquaintances haven't suggested that he was like, a deranged Democrat or liberal who had it in for Trump specifically. I saw one interview with somebody, it was kind of long, so I don't want to play it here, who basically said that he was a high school classmate or junior high school classmate, actually, of Crooks, who said that basically his political view was that he didn't like any politicians. So maybe he was just somebody who killed Trump because he had that opportunity, because Trump had a campaign rally close to where he lived, or tried to kill Trump. I'm sorry, I think I said killed Trump. And that may be, but it's still an open question at this point. Whether there was involvement by the government, etc., to help Crooks take Trump out. And there have been a number of conspiracy theories coming from the government itself, claiming that Iran wanted to assassinate Trump, that the Iranian government did. There's no evidence at this point that I've seen that was the case. There's also been claims that the Ukrainian government wanted Trump killed because Trump, although his messaging has been mixed, has at times said outright he wanted to end the Ukraine war. And of course, the Ukrainian government doesn't want to do that, even though it's losing badly. And the Ukrainian government has a habit of assassinating people. So the Russian journalist Daria Dugina, for instance, the evidence suggests she was assassinated by Ukrainian intelligence forces. Now, there's no indication that Ukraine was directly involved in some sort of conspiracy to take out Donald Trump. But it's certainly possible that they had connections with people in the U.S. Government, specifically the Secret Service, that could have been involved in a plot to take out Trump. But the Secret Service is under the direct control of the Democratic Party, of Joe Biden's administration. So ultimately, seems like the most plausible candidate for a conspiracy to kill Donald Trump would be forces within the Democratic Party, within Joe Biden's administration, perhaps Joe Biden himself, who knows. So at this point, basically, I guess we can't rule out the possibility that this was simply a colossal, like almost historically unprecedented, certainly rivaling, if not exceeding, 1981 when Reagan was shot, security failure on the part of the Secret Service. I mean, there were just so many things that went wrong that, naturally you have to wonder, was it something more than just sheer incompetence? It's certainly a possibility, a strong possibility. In fact, both Scott Ritter and Larry Johnson, former intelligence analysts, with the, I guess Larry Johnson was with the CIA, Scott Ritter was with Defense Intelligence. But anyway, they both think at this point that it was highly likely some sort of organized plot, because there was just so much that went wrong with security at Trump's event that it seems very plausible. So maybe we'll never know. I mean, we still don't know for sure what happened with Kennedy's assassination, or Attorney General Robert Kennedy's assassination in 1968. We don't fully know what happened with Malcolm X's assassination, although there's certainly been a lot of evidence gathered to suggest that the government was involved. So we'll see, I guess. Maybe sometime in some of your lifetimes, if not mine, we'll find out the details. But at this point, I guess we can't say for sure what happened with the attempt to kill Donald Trump. Okay, well, that's all for today, and thank you for tuning in. Please like and share this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you next time.